all of us. The ghost of the 90s Indians is hanging over our head, and the nostalgia of the 90s Indians has put a blanket over the new iteration of the Cleveland Indians. It's downplayed. It's made us think, and it's made us think that the Indians of the 95, the 97, the 99 Indians are head and shoulders better than these Indians. And I'm here to give you the proof, and the scientific proof, that that's not true. One thing that you always have to be cognizant of is nostalgia. So to talk about what nostalgia is in the scientific sense, we have to have a definition. It's a complex emotion we feel when we fondly recall old times. It's a sentimental longing and wistful affection for the past. That is the definition of nostalgia. It's a bittersweet type feeling. It's like a mixture of happiness, and you're reliving cherished times, and then you also have this sadness knowing that, hey, I'm not going to be able to ever go back and recapture those times. I'm not going to be able to ever live in those moments ever again. And they're gone forever. And I think it's the same feeling you have when you think of Sandy, Albert, Kenny, Omar, Tommy, Baerga, Ramirez. Some of you probably even mad that I just omitted your favorite player from that last list. That's how nostalgic we are about the Indians. When you talk about nostalgia, it involves your family, your friends, your child memories, your young adult memories. And people all over the world experience it when it comes to very specific time periods. Graduations, weddings, family reunions, birthdays, holiday dinners. But one thing that hurts nostalgia is that because we always think of things so fondly and they have a special place in our heart, we're not always thinking logically, and we're not always taking consideration the totality of what happened. Basically, we omit things. We take all the good and never speak on the bad. So what happens is there's a nostalgia that we remember with the 95 Indians, the 97 Indians, is a false sense of reality. We view those 95 Indians a different way than everybody else on the outside who doesn't have a connection to those tribes. So in a sense, it's a false sense of reality, and it's a false narrative of what the past was. Yeah, those Indians were great, but did they have the pitching that this Indians team has? Nowhere near. That Indians team was great. They won a lot of games coming from behind, but did that team in the 90s win as many close games and as exciting games and one-run games as this Indians iteration does in 2017? No. There's all kind of different aspects of those two teams where this team for the Indians is totally better than those Indians. Studies show that most people have nostalgia once a week, right? They also point to a very interesting study. Studies have shown that people who have anxiety, people who are fearful, and people who have had traumatic things happen to them in their life are more prone to nostalgia than other people. So if you sit there and break that down, doesn't that fit the description of all Cleveland fans? Anxiety? Hey, if you don't think we got anxiety right now, go talk to anybody in a grocery store about the Cavs and what LeBron's going to do. Hey, that sounds like us. Traumatic situations happening, traumatic things happening. Well, the Indians didn't win the 95 World Series. They didn't win the 97 World Series. Clutch hits, the drive, all that good stuff, the fumble, all that sounds traumatic to me. So Because we've had so many letdowns and such a long history of failure, you have to look at the fact that we're prone to having nostalgia about things that are skewed, that are not totally the entire picture. You can point to it all the time. In this town, Bernie Kosar was an all-pro quarterback, one of the best to ever do it in this town. But you go outside of Ohio, and people think Bernie Kosar is a good quarterback. He's good, he did his thing. But in our minds, because of nostalgia, because he's the best we had, because of nostalgia, because of the way it affects our memory and our emotions and it tugs on our heartstrings, guess what? Bernie's that deal. It's the same thing with the 95 and 97 and the 90s Indians. Yeah, they were good. They had one of the best offenses we've ever seen in our life, in our entire life. But guess what? This team in 2017 is doing things that Indians team never did. Also, I think this is quite ironic. Studies also show that nostalgia happens during different periods of life. People are more nostalgic, notably through their teens, through their 20s. And it's marked by the stages of being dependent to independent. So a transitional stage. Also, it just goes to show you, and it also points out that people over the age of 50, middle age to senior, are also very prone to nostalgia at higher rates than other people. The questions of where am I going, where have I been, are all straight lines directly to nostalgia. I just find this is crazy because this is the exact same demographic that call sports talk radio programs, right? Mid to early 20s, 50 and over. These are the people that call and tell you, hey man, I mean, this team is good, but those 95 Tribe, I tell you what, me and my wife, we went to 65 games that year. I remember them beating the drum. We had so many comeback wins and victories and home runs, and yeah, that did happen. But you're being nostalgic right now. That's a skewed memory. Were those times good? Yes. Were those times awesome? Yes. But at the same time, the reality of the situation is you might be looking through rose-colored glasses on this thing. Songs, smells, photographs, general loneliness, any random bad mood, studies have shown can trigger nostalgia. We've had one of the darkest periods in Cleveland history, in sports history. It's well documented. We've had certain dates like 1954. For the Indians, we've had dates like 1962, no Super Bowls ever, never making it to a Super Bowl, all of that. So as a city, as a culture, as a sports town, yes, I understand that the Indians were good back then. They were my team too. They were all we had. But it's also absurd to think that those Indian teams are better than this Indian team, and it's not debatable. It's just not debatable. Hey, I like Brad Daugherty, Craig Elo, and Steve Kerr, and Hot Rod, and Larry, and Nance, and all those guys. I'll take Kyrie and LeBron and Kevin Love over them any day. Winning defeats nostalgia every time. 216-578-0092 at GBush91 on Twitter. Jim, Tony, Sam, John, hang on here. We're going to get to Alex Hooper, 92.3, the fans beat reporter. We talked to him about the Indians. We talked to him about the streak. We talked to him about all of that good stuff coming up. You guys staying online, 216-578-0092. It's the Barbershop Saturday right here on 92.3 The Fan. Nice.
Hey,
Nice.
do you want